In this presentation, I have tried to bring a more complete picture of human and primate growth and development. I have also tried to bring to the listeners an awareness of some of the discoveries and profound thought that has been gathered in Europe over the past century in the field of morphology. Researchers like Jos Verhulst, whom I have heavily relied on, recognize the validity of the vast collection of data that has been gathered showing the reality of adaptation through natural selection. But they supplement the neo-Darwinist theory with an understanding that arises when the detailed facts of human and animal morphology are seen in an unbiased way. Gould spoke about the internal mechanism held to be active by those who espouse the so-called strong version of the alternative view. What Louis Bulk called the internal evolutionary factor, and what Goethe called the type, was something that was, according to Gould, rightly rejected by the English. The continental Europeans, especially the Dutch and the Germans, still find this line of research to be fruitful and enlightening, and continue it to this day. After recognizing the realities of fetalization and retardation, we then heard in this presentation about the in-depth research that has been done to show how these tendencies are at work in the various organs and parts of the body of humans and other primates. It has also become clear that a handful of uniquely human characteristics, such as uprightness, speech, and the use of tools, could not be explained by fetalization, but had arisen in humans by a hypermorphosis of certain traits. These characteristics are seen in other primates to an ever greater degree as we rise up the series of primates, but they only become truly meaningful when they reach their ultimate form in the human being. The vast amount of data that has been collected in connection with these phenomena has been largely ignored by other specialists. They stick to explanations that only involve such things as random mutations and adaptations to the environment, and reject any suggestion that organisms have internal evolutionary factors. Earlier in this presentation, you heard that the primates are the least specialized of mammals, and humans are the least specialized of primates. According to Verhulst, he says, in the thinking of the founders of the materialistic theory of evolution, the unspecialized character of primates in comparison to other mammals, and of the human being in comparison to other primates, plays virtually no role and is granted no real explanation. The fact that the only mammal capable of propounding a theory of evolution is also the least specialized mammal is dismissed as trivial. In the minds of many scientists who practice Goethe's method of observation and thinking, it is not an embarrassment to state that the human being is unique amongst the creatures of the earth. They do not need to base their ideas on religious belief or dogma, since what they have come to understand arises from the empirical facts themselves. The human being has undergone the least specialization compared to other primates and other animals generally. Specialization has been a great advantage for many species, giving them survival advantages in particular environments. We need, however, to realize that specialization is a two-edged sword. On the one hand, the specialization by an animal allows it to live and survive in its environment in a fitting way. On the other hand, specialization means that once a species goes down that road, they can't turn back. The species has committed to that specialization, and it can't be undone, as we learn from Dollo's law of the irreversibility of evolution. Now, every law tends to have exceptions, but this law holds true in nearly every case. Now we can apply Dollo's law when we look at the evolution of humans and primates. Once a primate species left the more generalized line of evolution and developed specialization to adaptations in the environment, it was not possible for them to return to that unspecialized organizational structure that they had once, and that they still have and can be found in their fetal condition. If their environment changed, they either needed to migrate elsewhere or make further adaptations. And if either of these was not possible, they went extinct. Humans showed themselves able to live in the most diverse environments without specializing much to do so. Certain traits, such as skin color, amount of body fat, and other such traits, do show that humans have in fact adapted to different environments. But these characteristics are relatively superficial. Humans still have generalized structural plan and have not evolved into a new species. There is only one humanity. As we became clear about the tendency towards fetalization and retardation, or the prolongation of growth and development, we saw also that the specifically unique human characteristics could fully emerge and show their real value and meaning in the human. These traits became ever more explicit in humans through hypermorphosis. These characteristics reached the climax of their development in humans, but we see them prefigured in other primates. Uprightness is increasingly prefigured in the skeletons and posture of the primates. And speech is prefigured in the increasing descent of the larynx in the series of primates. When we looked at the hands of primates, we saw that they too prefigured the extraordinary capacities that only reach their climax in the human hand, with its ability to carry out the precision grip. Again, I would like to emphasize that these prefigured characteristics that show a movement in the human direction have no great significance in the other primates. These species are on specialized side branches of the main thrust of evolution, but they still retain within them the intrinsic evolutionary factor that Bulk spoke of, and that leads in the direction of the human, even though they only become truly meaningful in the human. Finally, when we look at the timing of the growth and development of the many fetalized and hypermorphic parts of the body, we realize that all the movements and counter movements that take place need to take place in a harmonious way that leads to the functioning wholeness that we find in the human being. Jos Verhulst calls this the phenomenon of synergistic composition, the heterochronic working together of growth patterns in human development. I would now like to end with these words from Jos Verhulst. The further we progress in our investigation of human development, the less inclined we become to view it as the random product of dissociated material mechanisms. As we saw in the last chapter, the form of the human head results from the continued growth of the cranium on the one hand, and suppression of muscle development on the other. Both of these complementary processes work together synergistically to maintain the youthful, typically human form of the head. Upon further consideration, we come to see all aspects of human development as elements that together form a meaningful composition. With these words, the many aspects of human development that have been described in this presentation are brought to mind. But in the end, it is for each person to look at the phenomena and bring them together in a way that makes sense and is meaningful to them in terms of the nature of the human being, of the animals, and of evolution. Thank you for listening.